Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
I'm Mentzel.
And we have a special guest, Alex Dusky, one of the founders of this show. You're back.
I am back. For those of you who weren't here in spring of 2021, Malik and I did found Bison Overtime together. I am a student at Oklahoma State University, and I'm up here visiting, and of course I had to come back on the show.
Welcome back. Starting with this segment, as always, football. So the Bison are coming off their third conference win against Indiana State. Not the blowout we were expecting. And I mentioned this last week. When we were going through our score predictions, I didn't know what to predict because, you know, the Bison, what we think should be a blowout, like against Youngstown, it just wasn't that way.
So I was at the OSU game when NDSU was playing, and so I wasn't able to check the score the entire time. Yeah. The Wi-Fi is not the best. But when I was able to see and that we were down at half, I was honestly shocked. I was like, what happened?
This guy texted me. He was like, "We're not going to Frisco." I was like, "Whoa,
what's a little
yeah." I was like, "What happened?" He was like, "We're down." I'm like, "No way." But yeah, what were the thoughts going through your head? Because you were panicking.
That was supposed to be a secret comment between us.
Not trying to get.
Yeah, it was definitely.
I got to get you in trouble.
It was definitely a struggle in the first half, and it was surprising, but also you have to realize back in 2012, exactly 10 years ago, Indiana State came to NDSU and beat the Bison here in the Fargo Dome, and it came off of two Bison.
Very hard to do.
Yeah.
Yes, and it came off of two Bison pick sixes, which resulted in a 17-14 loss for the Bison. So Indiana State has definitely been known to play spoiler before, even if they're not, exactly on par with the Bison. They're going to make it look like they are.
Malik, why were you worried about last week's game? Like, was there a specific scouting report, or you just have like a gut feeling?
The defense, I'd say, because the offense I've been going smooth. Cam Miller has done a great job leading this offense. It was a defense. Defense made kind of simple mistakes. I wouldn't say tempo. I think to me the chemistry's there. It's just I don't know. It's just simple mistakes. Either it's passing or letting up the run. A run defense needs to improve. I think everybody knows that, especially from the press conference. But yeah, why do you think this defense? Because you got worried on me. I was confused. I'm like, what? We're not going to Frisco. What? Should I cancel my ticket?
One loss. I don't know. I think one loss would be fine, but.
The injuries are my main concern on the defense right now. We already lost Jake Hava for the year. Eli Mostert's gone for the year, and there's definitely been also some banged up guys like Dawson Weber. He's had a couple of injuries, but he's been playing. And even on the offensive side too, there's been injuries. The injuries are my main concern right now. Can that next man step up? And that's been the mentality here at NDSU, and Coach Hentz has said it already. So it's going to have to be next man up now with all these major injuries going on.
And I think the bye week's in 2 weeks for NDSU?
It is after this week. So
right.
Yeah.
So I was reading up about it. This is like the second longest bye week in the season. It's a week 8 bye week, which is pretty unusual for NDSU. Yeah. So do you think that'll help them, maybe get some injuries back, in a couple of weeks for that?
It's going to have to. And I got in some inside scoop that, NDSU doesn't really let players heal all the way, and we just play hard-nosed football. That's hence Hunter Lukey. We're running him like 20 times a game. But
fullback university.
Right?
Did you guys see that on social media?
Yeah.
That was great. I mean, as an Oklahoma State student, my feed is mostly orange. But I do get a couple Bison football tweets in here and there, and I was seeing it all over. I mean, national news was picking up. NDSU had, 4 fullbacks in the game at one point?
Yeah, on the same play. And I mean, how many universities do you know that really even have 4 fullbacks on the roster to begin with?
And I think, like you said last week, I think you said teams don't have the traditional fullback anymore. But Hunter Lukey, he's versatile. He can do a lot of things. He catches the ball. We saw his catching ability a while ago. He can run hard and he can break out on you. He got some moves too. Hunter Lukey is shifty. Don't let him fool you. So I think that's why teams are really scouting on him. But to answer your question, I don't know. It's just like the offense. I think it's just the defense just lets simple mistakes happen. That's why I get worried in the next games.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess let's head into the game, I suppose. And talking about the defense first, it was a struggle to say the least. And one thing that this defense has been kind of founded upon, and one thing that kind of happened, not giving up the big plays. Yeah. And that 82-yard run that we gave right after the Bison took the lead for the first time in the game, that was a big gut punch to the defense.
And something that you will see typically with defenses is like, maybe they'll let up 20 points in half and then hold the team to 3 or a touchdown in the second half. But NDSU allowed 13 and 13 in each half. So it wasn't really necessarily that we were seeing a big improvement on the defense, more of an offensive shift, I'd say. And
I'll also say, even with as far as offense, red zone scores. That's what we're lacking. How can we drive down the field and not put points on the board? I mean, we got Hunter Lukey. I know he was resting this game. Did you notice that? Didn't I tell you last week they're going to rest him because who we got next? We got SDSU. I told you he's going to have to rest those guys, man, because this is going to be a game coming up. But we'll get to that later.
If that was a strategy move, though, it almost backfired because, the offense at times was inconsistent, especially early in the game. So,
but we won.
Did win, but
there you go. We,
it did not. It did not come easy, though. That's for sure. And the weird thing about the defense too, another thing too was missed opportunities. 2 more dropped interceptions. That's at least 5 on the season so far. And they gave up 4 touchdowns on the day. Indiana State only had 4 touchdowns on the whole season on the offense coming into this game.
Yeah.
So that was definitely unexpected.
Speaking of stats, they gave up 200 rushing yards to 26 points. That's the most FCS teams thus far that put up. And it was Indiana State, not USD, not someone like a big caliber team. So I kind of widened off that, and I'm kind of worried about the next game. But I'd say practice. You can practice something like as far as tackling and knowing your coverage, but ultimately you have to perform the game, no matter if the team is low or it's a difficult team. So I think that's the problem with this defense.
I think that the key takeaway here is not capitalizing. The dropped interceptions and not getting the red zone scores. That's what the Bison need to focus on heading into the SDSU game.
One thing that I have about this Bison defense is that when they're down on their luck, they definitely seem to get better because the South Dakota game, for example, they didn't give up anything in the second half after a struggle in the first half. And then in this game, other than the 82-yard run and the touchdown at the very end of the game, the defense gave up nothing in the second half. And that's what really helped this offense pick up its slack. And, thankfully it seems like this team, even when they aren't doing the best, they can find ways to recover. They can adjust. And that's one thing you're going to need to do if you're not having the best game.
Yep, and kind of to dive into the offense, I think Cam Miller had another good game. I think he's been looking good on paper for sure. But like you said, when the team is low, he has to be the guy to kind of get the team together, because when we go against harder teams like SDSU, even UND this year, he's going to have to get those guys together to end up winning the game or not having a close game like Indiana State.
And I think the excuse of that he's a young quarterback is kind of done for now. When we first started talking about him, the spring 2020 season, he was just a baby. Now he has an FCS championship under his belt. And he needs to be able to lead this team while still being he's a true junior. So still relatively young. However, given the circumstances, I think he's a leader, and I just think he needs to step up a little more.
And given the circumstances this past week, the fact that he was down Phoenix Sproles and Noah Gindorf, and honestly put probably his best passing game of the season against Indiana State. Alex Lippy, Zach Mathis, he did a good job getting the ball to those guys. So personally, I think a game like that for him is great, heading into probably what is going to be against one of the better defenses that he's going to face this year in SDSU.
You mentioned Zach Mathis. He's a senior wide receiver. He had a career-high 6 receptions and 88 yards, so he was my leading receiver that I picked. For my key running back, I picked Malik Williams. He rushed for a career-high 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, 35-yard long. So, we're seeing 2 guys with career highs, but they're also both seniors. What does that mean about that next man up mentality?
As far as the receivers, that's the thing. In this game, this is why I told you last week that they're going to have to see who the guy is, and this will be the game to do it. DJ Hart got some receptions. Jake Lippy, Bradley Henderson, those are the guys that's next man. As far as passing, as receivers, those are the next man up mentality. Zach Mathis has, kind of shine a light on him. Injuries has been hindering him over the years, so I think he's getting his just due, and I don't think he's getting enough. 6 receptions high late in this,
Correct.
I think he deserves more.
And you were talking about running backs, Alex, and Malik. You and I have talked about before, when Hunter Lipke's not going to be the feature back in a game, who's going to be the one to step up? And we had talked about Kobe Johnson possibly before, Dom Ganella. Well, in this game, it was the Tamarick Williams show, game in and game out. It was unreal seeing him run the ball, and you would always kind of harped on him a little bit, talking about he can't get past that last tackle. Well, he did a few times in this game, and he has definitely shown the full potential that he has brought to this team, and the fact that even when Hunter Lipke's not available, we got a guy like Tamarick Williams who can do the same thing.
Yeah, I had a feeling he was going to be the guy to step up, him or Dominic Ganella. They both did. I think, even though it was fumbles, but I think with Hunter Lukey, I had a feeling they're going to rest Hunter Lukey in this game. So Dominic and Tamarick had no choice but to step up. But I'm glad the brother got some light. Okay, get off me. I'm glad he got some light. Hey, he fumbled, bumping, stumbling. That's a big boy, and he broke away on some runs. So I give him his props for that.
I do want to give credit to my player of the game, defensive tackle Will Mostart. He blocked the field goal attempt that preserved the Bison's lead. He was also the Missouri Valley Player of the Week, which I think that's big. Being able to block those field goals, keeping the opponents off the board is going to be key going into the rest of the season.
That's true. And him being on that D line, they lost, like you said, so many pieces.
Jake Cava and Eli.
Yeah, right. And they still have some pieces like Wagey, even Tony Pierce, who's kind of been in the shadows. We haven't heard much about him. He used to be sack galore, and now we haven't really heard much about him. But as far as that defense, him losing his twin brother, Eli. Yep. So I think this defense, as far as the defensive line, they got to really step it up. And next man mentality, we were saying earlier in the season that they're loaded. So we haven't. That's where I guess we're kind of confused why it's kind of quiet in that department.
Yeah, and for some other stats for the defense in this game, James Kaiser led the way in tackles by a long shot. He had 9 tackles in this game. Definitely having himself a great game and a great season. Yeah. Dom Jones and Michael Tutsi each shared 4 tackles each. And the defense also had 2 sacks, 1 each by Will Mostert and James Kaiser. And the defense also had 5 tackles for loss. So overall, just a great day for the defense in terms of stats.
As far as offensive stats, in the air, Cam Miller had himself a game, completing 21 passes for 210 yards with a touchdown. Tamarick Williams, like you said, he came alive in this game with 13 carries, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Zach Mathis, we've mentioned him too, catching 6 passes for 85 yards and a touchdown. This offense, on paper, Cam Miller, like I said, looked good. I think it's an up and up for him. I think this is why I like him, because he's a true competitor. You got to remember his history, man. Coming in, oh my God, you talk about bad luck. Coming in, Zeb Nolan, transfer from Iowa. Okay, we realized he wasn't. Iowa State. Yep. We realized he wasn't as good as we thought it was, so he replaced him and got Miller time, got some light. And
get another quarterback from Iowa, except he played high school in Iowa.
Right, and then Quincy Patterson comes in the following year, and then he got to beat him out. So I think he's a true competitor. This is why I like Cam Miller.
And you said this is his first full-time season as being a starter, being that leader on the offense, and he has definitely shown the way. I mean, other than a couple of interceptions, he has played it safe. He's played it great, and he's had a good season thus far.
Yep, so they're now 5-1. Tomorrow they'll face SDSU for the Dakota Marker at the Fargo Dome at 2:30. This will be a tough one. SDSU ranks 2nd in the top FCS top 25. I mean, let's hear what Matt Nitz have to say.
I think they're a really good football team. Like I said before, I had a meeting with our leadership council this morning, and I think they're probably the best football team in the country. You look at their resume, they've played better football than we have, and so we got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things that we need to continue to stress this week, but I think our kids will be locked in, and we have to have greater focus going into this game than we've had the last couple.
There's a lot on the line in this game. You mentioned it's the 1 and 2 teams. They're both undefeated in conference play. Both of the teams' only losses come to FBS opponents. SDSU has won the last 2 games. Last year was down there. 2 years ago was in 2021, or the COVID year at home. This is the first matchup of 1 and 2 teams in Fargo Dome history, which I think is, first of all, it's strange. Second of all, it adds a lot of pressure onto it. And we have to remember that SDSU is the most winning FCS team in the Fargo Dome, especially in recent years.
Yeah, I'm just glad the Bison have home field advantage, because it seems like on the road it kind of hinders them in a way. They just destroyed USD. Some key players to watch for SDSU's offense alone, just quarterback Mark Gronowski and running back Isaiah Davis. And I know you're fond of him. You think he's a really good running back, and he is. So I think this will be a good game, especially in the Fargo Dome. They're going to need home field advantage, man. The crowd, everything.
They're also getting tight end back Kraft. He's coming back this week after getting an injury in the Iowa game, and both sides of the ball are going to be very dangerous. They're getting guys back from injury on both sides of the ball, and it's going to be a very interesting game. I think it's going to be a very tight one, tight contested game, but I believe the Bison will get the Dakota Marker back. I predict 21-19, the Bison are going to win.
I got 27-24. That's what I got.
I have 35-28. I think it'll be a higher scoring game, especially with the defensive issues that we've talked about. But I think we'll win by touchdown.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Make sure you guys tune in to that game. When we come back, we'll dive into soccer, volleyball, and NFL news. Stay tuned.
One kid, one mentor, plus one moment can unlock limitless potential. One heart-to-heart, one inside joke. 30,000 youth are waiting. Be there for one of them. It's time. Become a big today.
The NDSU bookstore has everything you need to show off your Bison pride. The bookstore can have you sporting green and gold wherever you go. It offers many different brands, sizes, styles, and selection so that you find exactly what you're looking for. Shop the NDSU bookstore and show your spirit today.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level of NCAA Division I, student athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
There are so many great things to experience at NDSU. It's hard to pick one, but my favorite is
the people. They make it such a warm place. The Bison aren't just across the country, they're across the globe.
It's the perfect distance from home. The faculty are our biggest cheerleaders. Hands-on research experience. The affordable tuition.
All the opportunities to stay active on campus.
Real-world learning experiences.
once I got on campus, it felt like home.
All right, welcome back to Bison Overtime. Alex, Malik, and Dash. We're going to dive into Bison soccer. They have a full week of rest. So let's start off with their 3-1 road win in Kansas City. Dash, what were some of the stats on that?
Some of the stats for that Kansas City game: NDSU had 13 shots on goal, and Kansas City had 15. NDSU had 5 saves, with Kansas City having 4. So very even game overall in that stat department. However, the score department was a little bit different.
Right. So then they came off with that, pretty dominant win, 3-1 on the road. Had one night off, and then last Sunday had an 0-2 loss to ORU in Tulsa. I should have gone, but that was my mistake. I could have been there reporting for you guys. Malik, what happened in that Oral Roberts game?
First, Oral Roberts, it was tough. Their first score came from a penalty kick in the 10th minute. And to make it worse, they scored 5 minutes later on a free kick. So in this game, Oral Roberts just capitalized on their opportunities, plain and simple.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and as in the stat department as well, NDSU only had 6 shots on goal, and Oral Roberts had 13. So they got heavily outmatched in that department.
Yep.
How do you think that the Bison can, change in that department? Because obviously, no shots on goal needs to change if you want to win games.
We've been talking about literally for the past couple of weeks because the amount of shots that we have, even if it's not on goal, just as long as you're shooting, making opportunities, but they got to capitalize it because ultimately, if you don't score, you don't win. So,
exactly.
So that's what we've been.
You could tie.
You could tie.
And in the Western Illinois game, NDSU had their season high of 22 shots on goal, and they had 11 each half. But the thing was, in that game, they didn't capitalize on any of them in the first half. They got all 4 of their goals in the second half of that game on 11 shots. So it's not even about making the shots, it's capitalizing on them when you get the chance. They also had a game where they had 7 corner kicks and couldn't capitalize off any of those. So it's about getting your opportunities.
Which is something that we kind of talked about with NDSU football as well, capitalizing. Yeah. Looking ahead, the team takes on UND on the road this Sunday. This is a crucial game. Yeah. Looking from afar, the Bison hold an 11-6-1 record all-time over the Fighting Hawks. Yep. 5-4-0 in Grand Forks, so they do have the advantage there. What are your thoughts going into this UND game?
Man, first of all, this is UND. The rivals, my hatred for UND, it's you already know.
I have a quick question. NDSU UND or SDSU NDSU? Which one's the bigger rival?
NDSU SDSU.
It depends on the sport with me. It depends on the sport with me. Football, definitely SDSU.
But
because of the
UND.
No, actually UND because of the hatred. You gotta understand.
Okay.
When they traveled to UND, it was so much. It was talking stuff to our media people. That's how strong it was. So I'd say for football UND. And for other sports, I say UND, but SDSU is pretty close.
I say SDSU by a long shot in every sport. It's not even the Dakota marker. If you watch social media, there's talks between the two fan bases all the time, and especially because my roommate always talks about it all the time too, and he has a burning hatred for SDSU, so I have to hear about it all the time. So
I was just wondering. So getting back into soccer, Malik.
Yeah, as far as this UND game coming up, they rank 5th in the conference, so this should be a cakewalk. Like I said, they got to qualify for the tournament. They have to key on. It's coming up soon.
However, last season, Alicia Need gave the Bison a victory in the 90th minute on homecoming senior day against UND last year in a 2-1 victory. So it was very close last year. So it could be close again this year.
You mentioned, the postseason. There are 3 conference games remaining, and if they win out, they'll completely flip their standings. So they have UND, who has a 6-6-4, 2-2-2 conference record, followed up by USD, who has a losing record in both overall and conference. But they end their season against SDSU, who is 9-0-5 overall, 3-0-2 in the conference. I think the Bison have a really good chance winning UND, USD, but SDSU is going to prevent a challenge for them to continue on in their season.
Man, I think all 3 games are going to be tough. This team has just been through the fire, just up and downs, man. And even at home, they took some devastating losses. Those are the games you really want to capitalize on because you're at home. You got all the support you can possibly have. So that's why I look at it.
They're definitely taking the hard road, and a team that they're fighting against for that last spot right now, Omaha, they definitely have an easier schedule. They have Western Illinois and Kansas City yet to face up ahead. So it's going to be very hard for the Bison to get to that 6th spot.
Moving on to Bison volleyball, they lost their 5-game winning streak last Saturday. They lost 2-3 to UND at home.
See what I mean? It's a UND game, but it was a battle, like it always is with UND. They went to 5 sets. They split the first 2 sets. In the 3rd set, the Bison scored 5 straight points late to win that set, 24-17. After Cyrus Tanchen had back-to-back kills.
And the 4th set was a close one as well, where the Bison had a 23-22 lead, but gave up 3 in a row to lose 25-23. Which sent it into a 5th set, and the Bison had an 8-7 lead halfway through the final set, but couldn't hang on. They gave up 8 of 11 to lose 15-11 as the final score.
You mentioned Syra Tanshin. She is now ranking 25th on the all-time kill list, and she's one of only 8 players to reach that mark in NDSU Division I era. So, hats off to her.
Yep. Even when you were here, you remember Ali Henze and Syra Tanshin. The duo is still going on. I believe they're seniors this year. But, yeah, this duo is still going strong.
And you also have players like Michelle Glover, who had 16 kills, a .519 hitting percentage, and 6 blocks, and Ali Henze, who had 15 kills as well. So a lot of good players on this team.
Ali Henze is a good segue into their game last night. They defeated Denver on the road 3-0. The headline was all about Ali Henze, who is a name that we talked about 2 years ago. And, it's kind of refreshing to see that she's still dominating like she was 2 seasons ago.
What's sweet about this game, this is her first win over the Pioneers in Denver since 2013. So that's a good milestone to hit. Gotcha. 2013, Jesus Christ. That's what I mean about the home field advantage. This plays a part in it. But the Bison came out swinging. They won the first set 25-11. So they weren't playing around. In the second set, kind of slowed down though. Both teams battled through 14 tie scores. So the Denver wasn't going out easy. And like I said, that's probably the home field advantage factor. But ultimately, they end up taking both sets 27-25 and 26-24.
Yep, and as well as other players who got stats, you mentioned Ali Henze having a great night. Syra Tanshin also had a great night as well. 16 kills, 9 digs, and 3 blocks. And Michelle Glover having another good night as only 6 kills and 5 blocks.
Yep.
Tomorrow, the team will play Omaha on the road. Overall, they still have almost half of their season left. There's some good talent. They've had a great start both with their non-conference and conference play. Just what are your thoughts on this volleyball team from a distance?
I'm ecstatic right now.
Yeah.
This is an incredible scene right now. I mean, NDSU volleyball had a stretch about 15 years ago where they were contending for the conference every year, but we haven't seen that a lot in the last decade. But now this team looks fresh. They look healthy. They look unstoppable on some nights, and this is just a great thing to see.
Yeah, 6-1 in the conference, second in standings. They're doing really good. Even though they ended their 5-game win streak, but they're still on the roll. Yeah,
they already beat South Dakota. That's about as big of a win as you can get in conference.
And also, it's hard having that 5-game win streak that includes some non-conference games because obviously your conference opponents will be tougher towards the middle of the season. Do you guys have anything left you want to talk about Bison sports before we hand it off to the NFL?
I mean, they got Omaha. I mean, that's going to be a tough one. They're 3rd in standing, so it's going to be kind of like the USD game. Even though we beat them, they gotta make some noise against this team too, Dash.
Yeah, and I believe that they can. They've been doing it all year long, and the only thing, even against UND, they had a couple of good sets. It's just unfortunately they let some of them get away, and that's bound to happen occasionally. But the fact that they've only let it happen once in conference so far, that shows that they are a very well balanced team.
So we're gonna have to happen. But now we got to talk about some NFL news. I got it. Yep. Got to bring up the.
All right, time to go.
As someone who attends school in Oklahoma,
oh, you like the cowboy hat?
It's all Cowboys.
You like the cowboy hat?
It's all Cowboys fans, and they are loud.
So I just want to start off with saying one of our teams got to win on Sunday. I don't know. Sorry, Bengals fan. And Packers.
I smell rotting cheese.
Okay. Anyway.
I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Will we see Dak again?
Oh, okay. We talked about this last week. This is what I say. I've always been the guy, if it's not broke, don't even dare to fix it. You might mess something up in the process. Cooper Rush is looking good right now, but if we're thinking logically, like I said, this is also a business. What organization is going to pay that much, like a quarterback that much, and he's a starter and not, when he's...
Think about Nebraska, who paid $15 million instead of waiting 2 weeks to get rid of their coach, though. money is no object when it comes to Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys.
That's true.
And exactly as your point there, especially when your owner is Jerry Jones.
Okay,
you know darn well he's going to make Dak start.
No, you're hating it. Anyways, yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Me personally, I want Cooper Rush just to keep going until he loses.
So that's your if Dak is healthy.
If Dak is healthy, yes.
Okay,
I'll ride the Cooper train all the way until he loses. And then that's just me, though.
So hold on. So on his first loss, you want Dak back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep the train going.
One and done.
Okay. Get ready for next week, Dak.
Oh, okay, we'll get into that. But the Cowboys are now 4-1, baby. How about the Cowboys? After defeating the Rams 22-10. Like I said, don't doubt us. You thought we were going to lose against the Rams.
Can we talk about the Rams?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Super Bowl champs.
Okay. Yeah.
They're struggling this year.
We're the Cowboys.
I know, but you're not the first team to beat them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It makes me wonder how much Odell Beckham was carrying that offense in the second half of last season.
They lost a lot of key players on both sides of the ball.
Well, also they're losing a ton of offensive linemen as well. They lost their top draft pick this year, Logan Bruss, before the season even started, and now they've lost other guys. Havenstein's gotten hurt a few times, so they've lost a lot of offensive linemen.
I even thought Von Miller leaving definitely hurt that defense because at the end of the day, Aaron Donald's he's dominant, but he's going to need help.
Although the defense is farthest from their biggest issue right now, and that's kind of the opposite for Dallas right now. Their defense is carrying this team right now. The offense did nothing against the Rams other than a 50-yard run by Tony Pollard.
That's true. Listen, I told you, the Cowboys will go as far as the defense will take them with the help of Cooper Rush and Pollard and Zeke. I think obviously, Cooper Rush didn't have the best game against the Rams. 100 yards, okay. But the defense, did you see 5 total sacks? 2 from 11 from having Michael Parsons? You see that?
He could hardly walk for half that game.
That's the thing. His hamstring. But he's going to get some rest. He's going to get some rest all week because we're going to need him. We're going to need him against the Eagles. 5-0 Eagles. That's going to be a tough one. Divisional rivalry game, but it's still the Cowboys. We're going to get this win. Relax.
All right, moving on. Before we get to your Packers, Zach, I do want to say I have my eyes on the October 23rd game, Cowboys-Lions. We got 2 very reputable OSU alum, rookie players, Malcolm Rodriguez for the Lions, who if you haven't heard him, then you guys aren't paying attention to social media, and Devin Harper, who hasn't seen a lot of action for the Cowboys, but when he gets his chance, he'll do great. So looking out for those guys. How about we talk about your Packers now?
Can we talk about your Packers first?
No. We turn our attention to you and your Packers.
Okay, London, great city. Never want to play football there again. That was rough. So the first half went pretty well. Packers were up 20-10 at halftime. The offense was clicking. Defense struggled a little bit, but they made a couple of stops. Second half, everything fell apart. The defense could not make a stop to save their lives, and the offense, it just did the typical Aaron Rodgers thing, where all they did was they went to Aaron to throw deep balls, and they stopped running the football with probably one of the better running back duos in the NFL.
Let's talk about injuries. Christian Watson, NDSU alum, he's out. So far this season, he only has 7 receptions for 52 yards, which is pretty good for a rookie wide receiver.
I've been saying they haven't been utilizing him like they should have.
And a lot of teams will not utilize rookie receivers. Yeah. So I'm saying, But
he was supposed to be the guy, though.
He was.
Technically.
Romeo Dobbs has become that guy now.
So he's out, and Aaron Rodgers missed practice on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. What's up with that?
I'm not worried about Rodgers. They already announced that he's going to be fine to go. He's already off the injury list, but he might have that thumb taped up for the game, his throwing thumb, which, I don't know. This season, it might not hurt him in any way because he hasn't exactly been 100% accurate beforehand.
I just want to say this. You went to a beautiful country, United Kingdom, and you clowned the Cowboys for beating he clowned the Cowboys for beating the Giants. That's one. So you
scored less points on offense than we did against the Giants.
This is getting a little heated for me.
You play the Giants.
Yes.
And you lose, in which we won. So what's up with that? Like she said, what's up with that?
You're divisional rivals. You know that team better than we do.
Oh, my. That's all you got for me?
Also, I'm not going to use excuses for the Packers, though. The Packers' defense was absolutely awful. Yeah. And it was the worst game that I've seen since, I think, the 2019 NFC Championship game against San Francisco.
I do have to get my Bengals in before we finish the show.
Yeah,
and I will say,
I
am a Bengals fan since 2004. Okay. So I want to state that I am not a bandwagon.
The Carson Palmer years.
Yes, okay? If we had to lose, at least it was to my fantasy football kicker, Justin Tucker. At least I got the points, and I did win that week.
That man can't miss kicks.
I think I don't really particularly agree with some of the play calling the Bengals did, specifically with not going for the field goal and going on 4th down, and we lost by a field goal. So I do love seeing Cordell Volson on the field, though.
Yeah.
Big ol' NDSU guy. This week we have an interesting game. We're going down to New Orleans and facing Andy Dalton. He's been doing pretty well with the Saints this past week, so it'll be kind of interesting to see, how they match up.
With the combination of Taysom Hill.
Right. So, I don't know. I'm not concerned. As a Bengals fan, the other thing is people are like, oh, your Bengals lost, your Bengals lost. My Bengals lost for 10 years. Like, this isn't new to me.
Well, we'll see what happens. You know, it's all about the Cowboys. We're looking pretty good right now.
The OSU Cowboys.
Oh, my God.
Packers will beat the
Dallas in Texas. We're looking pretty good. I'm happy with this momentum. But thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
I'm Dash Mentzel.
And I'm Alex Dusky.
And we will catch you guys next week. Stay tuned.